Good morning friends, Jill here. Welcome back. Today's video is definitely not the norm. Per your guys' request about my lovely espresso machine, I'm going to be doing a video today highlighting some of the things, just talking through coffee. Now, I would have loved to do a full, like just what all of our coffee looks like and our coffee makers. However, you guys know we are packing and we are moving. So I have two Chemex pour over coffee makers. Those are already packed. I will find them and link them below. If you're wanting just a pour over coffee, I'm gonna tell you though, that is the way to go. Nathan loves just drinking black coffee and it really allows you to taste all the notes. We also ground all of our beans fresh. So we just buy the whole beans and ground them. We do have a coffee bean grinder, which I will find that and link it. But my espresso machine actually has a hopper on top and you just pour the beans into it and it grinds fresh per each cup. So I really enjoy that. Let me just go ahead and tell you, you guys know coffee is my thing, right? And even Nathan's thing. We love coffee. Now an espresso machine is an investment. Nathan loves black coffee. I loved pour over coffee, but I'd have to have honey and nut pods and something like that thrown in there. But I love going to a coffee shop and having a latte or a cappuccino. I love that froth milk on top. Like anytime we go to town, I'm like, hey, can we hit up one of the local coffee shops and get a cup of coffee? Because I really enjoy that specialty coffee. So while this machine is an investment, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this was something Nathan saved for and surprised me with for Christmas. It is an expensive machine. But if you are someone who is stopping at a Starbucks or a coffee shop every day, maybe even twice a day and buying coffee, I guarantee you, you will have that thing paid off in less than a year. And so that is something Nathan and I talked about. You know, after he bought it, I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Then it was like, oh my gosh, this was such an investment. We literally added up like how many cups of coffee we would buy to pay for that. And it was literally, it would have been paid for in less than a year. And that's crazy. And I will tell you too, and so would Nathan. He's not here today. He's working. But our two most used things in our household that we use every day, several times a day, is our Berkey water filter and our Breville espresso machine. So it is definitely something that we use. I feel good about it. I never once think, oh my gosh, I hate that Nathan bought me that. I mean, literally I use it every day. So today I'm gonna show you how I make my lattes at home, and I'm just gonna do a little review because I know a lot of you guys have asked me my coffee machine, and then when you look at the price, you're like, I need to know a little bit more about this before I invest. So mine is the Breville Barista Pro, and then there is one underneath it that is a little bit cheaper. Mine is $800 is how much I paid for it. So I'm gonna be doing a little bit of a review today. Granted, there are so many things about this machine that I truly just don't know because I haven't explored them more. I kind of have my cup of coffee that I know how to make really good, and I kind of stick in that wheelhouse. However, yesterday I made my first iced coffee. It was a vanilla maple iced coffee with a dash of cinnamon, and let me tell you guys, it was amazing. So you can make lattes, you can just make espressos, you can make cappuccinos, you can make iced coffee. Literally any type of specialty drink you would get at a coffee shop, for the most part, you'll be able to make that here. So let's head over because I haven't had my morning cup of coffee, and I'm like, that is the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning. I start grinding my beans, and then I go to the bathroom, I come out and I start making my coffee. So I've missed a few steps this morning. All right, so here she is in all her beauty. Like I mentioned, she's the Breville Barista Pro. This is the stainless steel option. They have black, they've got like a cream, they have so many different color options as far as what you actually want your machine to look like. And I'm just gonna go through what's on it. So this is the hopper where you pour your beans into and they grind it. This is the pitcher where you will be frothing your milk. Here we have the portafilter, which is where the beans will be ground down into. And then here we have our tamper. You have your steamer, your button that either frosts the milk or turns on the water, your power button. So one of the features of the Pro is this digital screen. You guys can see here all these numbers. So it says the grind size. Over here is the knob for your grind size. You've got your coarse or your fine. That does determine the shot that it pours. which again, you can totally nerd out on all of this, and there's so much I just don't know. And then you guys see where it says 10.5 seconds. That is how long that my beans are gonna grind for into the portafilter. So you can change that as well. Down here, these buttons, you have the menu, you have the knob that says grind amount, and then you can pour a single or a double shot of espresso. Now around here, I am only pouring double shots of espresso. I'm pretty sure that they say a double shot of espresso is equivalent to just a standard like cup of coffee. So as far as if you're wanting to know like caffeine, there's as much caffeine in a double shot of espresso as like a 12-ounce cup of coffee, I believe. And so here we have the hopper right on top. So I'm gonna open this up, pour my beans in there. Now we usually keep this full because we are going through a lot of coffee here. However, there are so many things you can dive into when it comes to coffee in this machine. So you can actually weigh out your beans on a scale and just put in the specific amount for the cup of coffee you are wanting to make, and then just grind that. The benefit of that would be that if you don't use this often and you fill this hopper up, the beans can become stale. And honestly, the key to good, fresh coffee house coffee at home is your beans. So I recommend you can make an espresso with this machine with already ground up coffee. There's just a different filter that you put on there. You put it on the portafilter. So you've got all these little different filters you can pop on there. I actually don't recommend doing that because the way to get that fresh, really in your face good coffee is by buying the whole beans and then grinding them fresh. That's just what makes the coffee taste good. And so some people do not like to fill this up. They're afraid that their coffee beans are gonna go stale. However, filling this up only lasts me a few days with Nathan and I and just the other people. Anytime friends come over, we're immediately making them a cup of coffee. So for me, I haven't found that I have any issues with my beans going stale. You guys know though, I truly love coffee. And so I love buying so many different types of coffees, trying all the different notes in the coffees. That's one of the things, like anytime we go somewhere, Nathan and I, like buy coffee. We want to try coffee from different places. We always want to bring the beans back home. Anytime friends come and visit us, they bring us coffee beans, and it's just really fun. It's one of those things for us. It's kind of a hobby, honestly, like trying different coffees and collecting different beans to try. And we just really enjoy that. So now that you have your beans in the top of the hopper here, I'm gonna show you guys, this is one of Charlie's favorite things to do. She'll ask me, Mommy, can I push the button for you? All right, so I mentioned here's your portafilter. You can get some really fancy one of these. This just came with it. So you stick it in here, and then you literally push the button. So another thing that I recommend, like if you're really wanting to get your whole setup, this is not necessary, this is not required, but for me, if you're really diving into making good, you know, espresso and lattes at home, having a knock box is really good. And essentially what this is, Nathan bought this for me at a restaurant supply store for like $3, is I always keep it by the espresso machine because one, once I get done pouring my shot of espresso, I've got this little hockey puck of grinds and I immediately put it in here. And then once this gets full, I take it out to the compost. All right, so here I have the coffee beans that just were ground in there. I go through with my finger just like this, and I push it down and try to make it as even as possible. And then I'm leveling it out. Your machine will actually come with like this razor that you can stick in and just kind of turn it around. I've never done that. Once I do that, I've knocked off the excess like that right there. I'm going to take my tamper, which this just magnetically sticks right up in here, which is really nice. So you're gonna pour that off, and you're gonna take this and press down pretty hard just to compact this. So literally I'm just putting some weight into it. Now you guys can see I've got this nice little hard puck. and it's pretty clean. Now we go and we stick it in, and we're gonna actually make our shot of espresso. Now you will need to dial in your espresso machine when you buy it, and what that means is whenever you pour your shot of espresso, it should be this, it should look kind of like honey whenever it's being poured. We had a lovely friend who owns a local coffee shop come and dial my machine in for me, so that is something you will need to do. However, there are a lot of really good YouTube videos that can show you guys how to do that, but I do not know enough. So I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna throw my cup under there, I'm gonna hit this double shot of espresso, and we're gonna wait for the magic to happen. You guys see that kind of caramel honey color? That is exactly what you want. Alright, so like I mentioned, you can get real fancy or you can be pretty basic like me. So now literally all I do is I'm gonna fill the rest up with, or I'm not gonna fill the rest up. I'm gonna fill more than halfway up with water. I'm gonna add my tablespoon of honey, and then I'm gonna froth my milk. And so there is built-in water at the back of your machine. You'll be able to pour water in there, which is really nice because our Berkey's right here, so we can use our filtered water for our machine as well. But I'll literally just stick it back under here, fill it up with water, add the honey, and then I'll show you guys how we froth the milk. So while I'm pouring my honey, I do want to talk to you guys about frothing the milk, because this is really kind of key, because the milk that you choose makes a really big difference. So I know I've tried to froth my nut pods. They do not work really well. The Oat Life, I believe, is the name of that milk that's not actually a dairy, it doesn't actually contain dairy. It froths really well, but just know that if you try a milk and it's not a true milk, it's some sort of alternative and it doesn't froth well, that is probably why. Another thing I want to mention too, on your pitcher there is the minimum and a maximum on here as far as the milk. I always just fill up to the minimum. Usually if you're wanting a cappuccino where it's mainly just a milk base, so it's the espresso and the rest milk, that is when you would fill up more. For me, actually what I'm making, since it's an espresso and majority of water, that would actually be technically an Americano, I think, but then I do add milk on top. So I kind of make my own things up, you guys, and that's just, I played around with this and I did all these different things. So I don't typically do dairy, and so when I was trying to find a milk alternative, I was having a hard time, which is why I would primarily do water and then fill the rest up with some sort of alternative. I actually did find an A2 milk that doesn't bother me, and so I've been using that. So I could now probably do a primarily milk based coffee and be fine. If you're wanting to make an iced latte too, I will give you guys that recipe at the end that I use, but right now I'm just gonna fill this to the minimum with milk. So this is also where you can get pretty fancy. You know, all those fancy baristas at the coffee shop that make all that pretty artwork? That happens right here. That is something I do not know how to do. I'm gonna be real honest. The first time I tried to make Nathan a little heart, it looked like a butt, and we have still not quit laughing about that to this day. That is honestly on my list of things to do. I would love to take some sort of latte art class. I've talked to a local coffee shop owner asking if that's something he would ever do, because I think it would just be really fun to really know how to do it. I mean, right now I know how to steam the milk, but I do know that there's all these other techniques that you can get in on how to properly steam them. When he came to my house and dialed in my espresso machine, he told me to figure out how to froth my milk, to add soap and water and just keep trying in the steam wand until I got, you know, kind of the right consistency. And so I did that for a long time. That is how I figured out how to froth properly. However, the art is still something that I have not quite mastered. So another thing my friend John told me is whenever you are frothing your milk, you know when it's done when you're holding the side of the stainless steel pitcher and it's too hot. You can't keep your fingers on there more than a few seconds. So that is something that I'm always being mindful of, and that's kind of my cue on, oh, okay, you've reached the point where you're good and your milk's not gonna become burnt. And so I just made this nice little latte. I'm gonna show you guys. Look at this beautiful little latte with a $4 mug. I found it at a thrift store. Tastes really good. I have also just done a dash of cinnamon and turmeric on top. Any type of specialty drink that you get at a coffee store, you can make at home. I know Onyx Coffee is local to me. It's in Fayetteville, but if you go to Onyx Coffee Lab online, they'll tell you exactly what is in all of their specialty drinks and how to make them at home, which is really cool. And so that is something this winter I'm going to be diving into more, is trying to figure out how to do these specialty drinks. Now you can add any type of syrup into these as well. So you can make caramel macchiato, you can make a vanilla latte, mocha latte, literally anything you can think of can be done. This is just kind of my basic go-to every morning. Now I did mention that I made a iced latte and it was really good. And what I did was add a dash of maple syrup in here. So probably a tablespoon of maple syrup. I added a dash of vanilla extract and I added cinnamon. And then I poured my shot of espresso over this and I swished it around really, really good. Then I took a 12-ounce mason jar, filled it halfway with ice, and then I filled majority of the way up with milk. And then when I got done pouring my espresso on here, I literally just poured it into that milk, gave it a swirl, dashed some cinnamon on top, and it was phenomenal. So if you're wanting to make an iced latte, that's what you would do. I do find that whether you're wanting to use honey, maple syrup, you want to add any sort of flavorings in there, doing it when you pour before you pour the shot, because it's so hot, it immediately kind of just blends all those things together. Because obviously if you're putting a honey or a maple syrup into ice, it's not gonna melt and it's not gonna taste good. So that is a way you can do that. But that is my morning coffee routine. It looks pretty similar for Nathan too. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. But I will leave everything that I mentioned today down in the comments below. Also, if you've been wanting one of these and you've been eyeing it, you can ask my friend Lauren. I just convinced her to do it. Just do it. It is literally what, if you're a coffee lover, if you like rarely drink coffee, obviously this is investment and it's probably not going to be practical for you. If you drink coffee every day, I'm gonna tell you right now, go buy yourself a machine. It was the best thing Nathan ever gave me, hands down. So I hope this was helpful and kind of gave you guys a glimpse of what my morning looks like. But thanks for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.